So, good morning, afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for participating in this new online session of Plena Internacional. For those of you who do not know us, Plena Internacional is a project by Plena Inclusión, which we do in collaboration with Inclusion International, where we try to promote the participation of people with disabilities from all over the world. These sessions are a place in which to share experiences and learn about new topics. Please remember that you have interpretation into English, Portuguese, French, and Spanish. For the interpretation, you have to click on a globe icon, which is in the bottom part of your screen, and choose the language in which you want to listen into. In this session, we are going to talk about how we work with families. But first, we want to introduce you Carlos Rueda. He is the co-director of the Platform of Representatives of People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities of Spain. Carlos is going to tell us about his experience at the World Disability Summit in Berlin. Go ahead, Carlos. Thank you, Horacio, my dear colleague. I'm going to speak about my experience in the World Disability Summit in Berlin in April, and I'm going to read the questions so that you can know a little bit of what I'm going to speak about, so that you know, so that you can follow what I am speaking. The first question was, how did you feel participating in the summit? Well, I felt really well because I was accompanied by my colleagues Maribel Cáceres and Ana Martinez, and of course, of the interpreters, Natalia and Carmen, and also by Carmen, the president, and the communication person from Plena Internacional. There were a lot of people, but that I didn't know, but it was really, really worth it. Carlos, can you tell everyone what the summit was? Yes. Well, the World Disability Summit is a conference attended by people with disabilities, politicians, organizations, companies, and people from universities from all over the world join to discuss the commitments that each one is making in the field of disability. In every country speaks about an item of their country related with disability. This time it was in Berlin, where we were there present in Germany on April 2 and 3. Let's see if I left something out. Oh, yes. So, okay. The second question, which were the talks that you attended? The talks you attended, which topics did you find most interesting? Well, of course, we didn't attend all the talks or the tables. We went to the ones that seemed more interesting for us and for my colleagues. For example, we were in a talk that had to do with living in community and of the institutionalization process. There, Mari Carmen Cáceres also presented a very interesting talk. We were also in some other talks because they were very, very intensive. It was a very intensive summit and there was a lot going on. Maybe I can read all of them so that you know, for example, co-leaderships, all families matter, decent employment for all, support systems for autonomy, independent living and care, community housing and deinstitutionalization processes, full inclusion for equality, health, we are all one, social protection and inclusion pathways. These were the topics, the main topics. And they were it was very, very interesting. Third question, did you find the event accessible? Yes, it was. Everything was very spacious. It was really comfortable. It was really well thought. The place was very accessible and easy. It was wonderful. And also, there was really good weather in Berlin. We even had some sun. Also, the fourth question, do you think there should be more participation from people with intellectual disabilities? I think so. I definitely think so. I think in this summit there should be much more participation of people with intellectual disabilities from all over the world because their voice and their opinion and their worries or concerns is what really matters, in fact. And these are the questions that should always be present in these type of summits because their rights, their life is what concerns us. Fifth question, what message would you take away from the summit? Well, I would take away the commitment to help more countries, to hear them, to hear more countries, but the word which I want to take away is united. Everyone has to be united with the needs of everyone. All for all. Thank you. Thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you. Okay. So if anybody has a question for Carlos, they can ask him later on. That's wonderful. So, Horacio, you have the word again. Okay, well, thank you very much, Carlos, for what you have told us about your experience in Berlin, which was very interesting. Now we are going to talk about the topic, this month's topic, which is working with families. Our families can support us in understanding our rights and also to being leaders. Sometimes families don't know which is the best way to support us, but it is important for people with disabilities and families to work together so that we can share our experiences and work towards inclusion. In this meeting, we're going to talk about how families and people with disabilities work together and support each other. In Spain, it was the families of people with disabilities who created our association, Plena Inclusión. They created it so that people with disabilities who were their sons, their daughters, or siblings could have a better quality of life and receive support. They also created it because families did not have the support they have today. And it was more difficult to get the necessary support for education, for example, so that their children and siblings would not be left behind. Because people with disabilities were left behind in schools, this is why they created these centers. Families are the people who live with us, and they're the people who best know us. This is why, in some cases, families are the people who provide us with the most support. Sometimes, however, for whatever reason, they do not provide this support. Maybe it is because they disagree with our decisions, or maybe they are not sure which is the best way to support us, or they might even be afraid that they will make mistakes. The convention says that all people with disabilities have the right to decide what support they receive and how they want to receive the support. In Spain, the law says the same thing, that we can decide what support we want to receive. We can also decide who we want to receive that support from. Today, we want to hear how organizations for people with disabilities work with families to provide support while respecting the decisions of the person with disability. So, this is why we are here to listen to our colleagues from Inclusion Ghana who are going to tell us how they work with families. So those from Inclusion Ghana.
Many thanks.
Thanks,
If you
Horacio.
can allow me to share my screen.
Enseguida lo hago. Un momento, por favor.
Hello? I'd like
Yes, just a
to...
moment. Yes,
Okay,
I will
sure.
do it just right now.
Creo que ahora tendrías que poder.
It should be okay now. You should be able to share your screen now.
Can you see my screen?
Perfecto. Sí.
Yes, we can.
Okay, sure. Just trying to make sure. So thanks, Inclusion Ghana and our work with families and self-advocates. Particularly, I've been asked to talk about how families are enablers for self-advocate leadership. And so we will be discussing the lessons from Inclusion Ghana, and I will be doing that. I have colleagues also online who can also respond to questions if you have questions. So basically, the Inclusion Ghana started in 2009. It's a network organization representing the voices of persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families in Ghana. In the structure of the network, we have centers that we are working with who are basically organizations of persons with disabilities. We have self-advocates, and then we have families and caregivers are all part of the network. What we do is basically to promote inclusion through awareness creation. We also build capacity of family self-advocates and our stakeholders. And then we advocate for policy changes. Plus, we also do empowerment programs. And it is in this area that we empower families, we empower self-advocates to also advocate for all the rights and needs in self-advocacy. We see that families are often the very first advocates for their children or for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They basically offer emotional and physical support, and as we know, especially in developing contexts, the level of stigma and discrimination. And so families are always the first at hand to offer the emotional and physical support. When it comes to communication, also, they support, make sure that they are facilitating the communication of their children or their family members, as well as they become mentors when it comes to advocacy for their children. They basically act as bridges between self-advocates and the community. So whatever the self-advocate needs to understand in the community, needs to be able to do, it is the family who act as the bridges, and also equally they're able to support for the self-advocates to communicate also to their family, to the communities that they live in. And so basically they act as bridges. So the critical question about how families are supporting self-advocates leadership. Basically, in Ghana or in many developing contexts, you see that a lot of families or parents are protective of their children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so for a person to do self-advocacy or to be a self-advocate, it will need encouragement of participation in leadership training by the family member. Equally, for many of those who do not work, and in our context, we have a lot of them who are not working, and so families provide logistical support in terms of providing transport, making sure that they are on time for meetings and other important things like giving them the needed support to ensure that they are doing what is needed for their various groupings. They also act as coaches when it comes to decision making. They don't take decision for self-advocates, but they make sure that they support them in their decision making or even in expressing what they need to say. And so basically, families we see as also people who are co-learners when it comes to the advocacy journey. Indeed, whilst they are supporting, their children, or they are supporting their families with intellectual disability, they also learn in their advocacy journey. These are some of the difficulties that we have identified families encounter. Basically, stigma, which always is on top. There is always lack of support services. Many families actually need counseling themselves because they equally struggle based on issues of stigma. Some of them are not working and they need to support their children and things like that. Then we have families who also encounter issues of poverty, and even managing their own time, whether it is with work together with supporting their children. These are all very difficult things. An important difficulty or challenge that families face also is about balancing protection versus empowerment. So they have their family members with intellectual disability who, wants to self-advocate or make sure they are in leadership in advocacy. And here they are aware that there are many abuses, there are many discrimination in the communities, and so they are more protective of their children. But then there's also the dilemma that indeed these are also people that needs to be out there and then advocate for themselves. And so they are torn between, the empowerment and whether to protect them. And this also bring about the very last difficulty that has been mentioned about emotional fatigue. Sometimes it is so difficult for them to let go, whether to allow your children to be at the forefront, for people to see them, for them, to, encounter discrimination and stigma and things like that. And so that is one of the challenges that many families have. But what we see in building collaboration between families and self-advocates is that indeed, a lot of times, sometimes the families want to protect their children with intellectual disability. Sometimes they don't allow them to take decisions and things like that. But when they collaborate and work together, you see, something of mutual trust happening, more open dialogue happening. They also promote co-leadership rather than representation. And as you may know, Inclusion Ghana has been implementing a parent self-help group. And in this parent self-help group, we have, participation of self-advocates in those groupings. And indeed, because of this reason, their voices are not actually represented by the parents. They also represent their own voices when they are taking decision. And so there's opportunity to co-lead. There's an opportunity to share their goals and make sure that both their inclusion targets and advocacy goals are being achieved. It is also an opportunity to be using their lived experiences as shared learning, because the context of families may even differ from the self-advocates themselves. Now, at Inclusion Ghana, we have been using many tools, or if you like, guidelines to support some of this our work. And so I want to mention, some of them. We currently have a self-help kit for families that basically are accessible materials that helps to build confidence, to create awareness, to make sure that they are able to support, persons with intellectual disability and also represent, the voices of families and persons with intellectual disability. We equally have parent self-help group guidelines. That is basically a tool that helps families to navigate advocacy support, rights, and transition. We also currently develop what we call a peer support toolkit. This is a framework for building self-advocate to self-advocate network. It also fosters mentorship, emotional support, and resource exchanges. We also have the guidelines on group dynamics that basically help, parent self-help groups, to learn about leadership, to learn about group dynamics, and how to even sustain it. Then we have a mentoring guide, for parents self-help group, and that is also very important. What are the outcomes that we have seen? The outcomes we have seen is that there is more increase in self-advocates' independence in public speaking and decision-making. We have also seen families reported improved understanding and confidence in the support of self-advocates. And then we have seen an emergence of self-advocates-led peer learning circles where people are converging and, they are learning from each other. Then there's a greater engagement in local advocacy and policy forums. We have more self-advocates who are part of advocacy other than, parents or families themselves. One of the big outcomes we've had recently is to have group self-help projects where we have self-advocates that are doing, projects like poetry, and then they are learning team building, they are learning many other skills, apart from, making sure that they are making some monies for themselves. Finally, in terms of key lessons, what we see is that families thrive when they are equipped, connected, and respected. We see self-advocates grow when their autonomy is recognized and support is collaborative. We see that the tools that we have just shown you, it is important they are accessible, they are context specific, and they are culturally sensitive. In terms of our future priorities, we want to strengthen cross-country family networks for learning and solidarity. We want to co-develop more resources with self-advocates and families. We want to push policy for family-inclusive programs in national disability strategies and also expand the reach of the peer support toolkit across the regions. In conclusion, I want to say that when families are not just caregivers, but co-champions, self-advocates rise to lead. So we invite continued learning and collaboration with Plena Internacional, and thank you for the opportunity to share our work. This is our contact information just in case anybody needs, any further information. Otherwise, I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thanks a lot.
Horacio, si te parece
If
bien,
it's all right
vamos a dar
with
el
you, we
espacio
can
si alguien quiere hacer alguna
leave
pregunta.
some room for questions. Yes. Can you please share the contacts from Ghana, please? Can you share those contacts? Yes, we will send you the presentation.
No sé si
I don't know whether somebody has a question for our colleague and comrade. one question. How have how does it like the progress of your work with families in Ghana? And which other support do you have for your work on education? How was it like?
Ex my apologies, I didn't get the question well. If you can ask again.
My question is to you, Jalil, is about how's going, how is the work with you doing about self-advocacy support is going out there as growing in has growing and how's I've involved in several
Oh,
instances other spaces in with space in like family or employment and education and out there in Ghana.
all right. I would say that it's a very difficult space. The self-advocate origin concept here. Many people have not seen it happening, in this part of our continent very much. And so there's a little bit, if times you would say that there are duty bearers that are a bit uncomfortable. There are also people who think that, I mean, why are these people, the one leading the effort, not the families? But we see that uh, self-advocates themselves provide legitimacy for advocacy. And so currently that is, the new thing that we are doing. I'll say when it comes to education, employment, I think we've made a lot of progress in education, where together with persons who have actually succeeded in an inclusive contest and then managed to go through school. And so we have these people as shining example that come to contribute to the conversation. And so most of the conversation on inclusive education has been a bit successful. I think we have made some progress. I think the difficulty where they need to be part, of the system, especially employment. The thing you hear all the time is that we have not even finished giving, others job. So why persons with intellectual disability? So those are the bits of difficulty. But otherwise, I think we have made some progress. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias
Thanks a
por la
lot
respuesta.
for your answer. Are there any more questions?
Mira, tenemos
Yes,
una
we have
pregunta
a
de Steve.
hand raised from Steve. The floor is yours, Steve.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, so where do you report your finding in Ghana? So do you like in Kent we report, because I belong to a South African group, so I go back to the local councils and the government to telling them what we're finding about the carers and how they're being supported, because half of their things I seen on your presentation I was nodding and going absolutely that's a problem in England as well. That it's lack of support within and information to support the carers to make sure they got all the information if their children are moving on, really moving from children to adult services. So that's what we are struggling really. So yeah, just wondering, where do you report back to with your findings?
Indeed, I think that Venezuela's, difficulty is the same difficulty we have, in Ghana. Generally, it's quite difficult to get, all the needed support from government. In Ghana, we don't have what we call the federal funding or, the funding that in other contexts you get from government. And so most of the fundings that we get, it's outside, the country, or we get it through, corporate social responsibility from many companies, or maybe the UN agencies or other significant foundations. But otherwise, most of the funding, has nothing to do with government. Government, only provide very, very small services like rehabilitation. But generally, we do report, through our annual, returns to government to tell government what we are doing, because that is how we get our license, renewed. But otherwise, we don't get any support from government, not at all.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, Dominique has raised her hand. Dominique, go ahead. Hello, everyone. So, how can you facilitate that young people work and that families respect the situation that young people can work and that they can or do they sometimes not facilitate that they work? So how do families respond? Should we also extend the question to the colleague, and then we will let you know about Plena. Celine, did you receive the question about working and how family supports people working?
So shall I go ahead?
Yes, please.
All right. So I think that that's a very good question. Yes, many families' wishes are that their children would be able to work, but looking at the level of stigma and discrimination in the communities, and you may recall one of the challenges that I mentioned was, the dilemma, between and these, feel they should be more protective, of their family member with intellectual disability than to allow them to be out there. And we have had several examples where they have been in the community and they've gotten abused. And so many families, are very concerned about allowing, their children to be out there. But indeed, the more and more we build their capacity and we empower them that, they should be able to go out there and ask for their rights, more families are becoming more flexible. I think that nowadays you find, a few situations where, some of individuals with intellectual disabilities, it is a very small number. It is a very small number. And I think that families, whilst they are doing the advocacy together with their children, they are beginning to feel more comfortable to allow their children to, go out there, because without going out there, they will not situation in Ghana. I think it's empowerment, but we still have made some progress in that space. Thank you.
Does anybody else have more questions? Yes, there are two other hands raised. There's Amos and then Juan Jose. Okay, wonderful. Go ahead, Amos.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Inclusion Ghana. Mine will sound like a repeat, but I'm speaking from experience. In Zambia, we've started family meetings of families of persons with intellectual disabilities. And in our initial stages, it has not been an easy undertaking bringing families together. And some families up to now, they are a bit hesitant, and that's why we started a strategy of requesting that we hold meetings in their families, especially those that are hesitant. And we're having a sort of rotational arrangement where this month we meet at family A, the following month we meet at family B, after requesting them and having a consensus. How best did you handle such a situation, or did you face a similar kind of situation when you started these family meetings or collaboration with families? Thank you.
Indeed, I think that your situation is not so different from how it started. It is always the case that, I mean, based on the way society sees families and also persons with intellectual disability, you always want to drive your work with caution. And so that is exactly how we started. But you see that over time, parents, and persons with intellectual disability alike get that confidence. They build their self-esteem. They now begin to feel strong that they are not alone and that they can fight together. Sometimes when you feel alone, that is why it's quite difficult to go out there. But when they feel, that they have support behind them, that even when they get, challenges along the way, they have other support members, which we are calling the peer support groups, or we are calling the parent self-help groups, who actually, would be there to support them. And so this has been, the backbone. And so keep fighting, keep working, on the capacity, keep working on the empowerment, and I'm sure you do just fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Juan Jose, you have the floor. Yes, thank you so much. I also want to use this space to share a little bit about my experience, my work experience. Here in Colombia, it wasn't easy to get a job because here the biggest difficulty is that it is work for people with disabilities is not easy at all. For example, in my case, I am working in a finance business, which is Café Colombiana, and what we try to do is that we try and favor inclusion. We always work on inclusion, and I would like to know a little bit more how is the process in other countries. How do you work on employment and getting jobs in other countries? Because here it's not easy.
So we have found that
Thank you, Professor.
importantly, okay, so we have found that
Sí, pues
generally employment is
nos hemos
a
dado
very
cuenta que en
difficult.
general el empleo es algo
Hello? Okay, I'm not sure if it was an interpretation of. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that we found out that the space of employment is a very difficult area generally. And so it is very important that we look at, the kind of models that work. And so for us, one of the first in internship, in some of the companies. So generally we write to companies, where allow, this number of people, to work with them, whilst, they kind of understand how they will be able to support, these people, for the future. And so we say, okay, let's try it for the first time without, getting paid. And then after a while, they see that, I mean, some of our, our self-advocates, actually that good, and that with little support, with little, help, they are able to, do all the things that they've been asked to do. And so currently I can, in one of the most prestigious hotel, in Ghana, where we have negotiated. First, they started without paid. Now they are getting paid. We are also doing some work in some packaging, companies where they get to, do package, also get paid. But how we started it and how we have been successful is that we request that they allow us, to work there for a while, and then it is very possible then they put them, on a payroll. So that has been quite successful, and I think that in your context, if you want to try those models as well, with them from time to time, it's very, very helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Now Anna has the floor. She has raised her hand before. In Spain, sometimes what the government does is they do public exams so that you can work, and we must pass those exams. These exams, for example, we have passed them, both Horacio and myself, and now we're working for the state. They're state exams. We work for the state
Y Ana, ¿te parece que el apoyo de las familias es importante
as
para
janitors. And Anna, do you think you need to have some family support to access? Yes, of course, because without family support, I would have probably not been able to pass the exams, because many people need the support of their family. Sometimes you even have to move away from your city. You have to move to another city, and you need your family to support you. Sometimes the exams are not in your city, so you have to move to another city. So you definitely need the support of your family. Thank you, Anna. Now, Joseph had raised his hand, and then Steve. But you can also share your opinion. Yes. In Spain, for example, for people with disabilities, it's quite hard to find a job. For example, Anna and myself managed to get a job as janitors, as intendants. We work for the state. I was already working before. First of all, I worked in a supermarket for 3 years, and also in a special education center, and I worked for 3 years in that center. Then I studied for these exams, these public exams. They were for people with disabilities, and I passed it. So now this is my 6th year working for the state. So it is a public job. And Horacio, was it important? Was family support important for you in all this process? Yes, of course. It was really, really important because thanks to my family, I had support and it gave me an economic stability. And it also helped me to be independent. So
It's great, actually. I have a job and I've met the goal I have set for myself. Great. If it's all right with you, the floor is to Joseph. The floor is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Joseph from Ghana. I just want to add a little more to the steps or the processes we take to have employers to accept persons with intellectual disabilities in Ghana. Just as Jalil have said, it is not easy, and because government is the major employer or the main employer in Ghana, we only have few companies who are ready to listen to us. So usually the process starts with orientation, trying to let employers understand what the disability is and what we can also provide or bring to the table to ensure that there is some form of inclusion. So after the orientation, we also give them the opportunity to study or understand the issues that we have raised. All these processes are documented, so it becomes very easy for us to advocate for a wider employment opportunity when the need arises. So, for instance, with the hotel, the prestigious hotel in Ghana, as Jilo mentioned, that we have a couple of people who started with unpaid internship and now being paid. It was not easy because of its prestige nature. They were looking at the stigma that we associate with having a person with intellectual disability work around and how it will, affect their customers. But the major thing is that during these orientations and meetings, we try to let them understand that yes, we may not have the fancy degrees, we may not have the qualifications as they expect, but because of our limitations, we also have very unique skills that makes our participation or inclusion in the sector more viable. And the most important thing that I want to say is that without documenting these little steps, it will be difficult to advocate for a bigger picture. So if any other countries around and is starting the process, all I want to urge is that whatever little meeting you have trying to showcase the capacity of persons with intellectual disability, it is important that you document the process and also letting them understand that because of the disability, we may not function as everybody would, but if everybody would provide the little accommodation, the little minimal accommodation, that will help us to maneuver, because from what we have documented so far, we have realized that as an organization or as a corporate body trying to make your place inclusive, you don't necessarily have to change so many things within your organization, space, language, all these things, you don't necessarily have to change it. You just have to provide minimal accommodation to ensure that wherever every employee is able to go, you give the room and space to persons with intellectual disability, and they can also participate equally. So these are some of the little steps that we took that we ensured that it is documented. I'm looking into the future where these steps can be fully documented into a tool where every parent could use it to support their child when the need arises. Thank you very much.
Oh yes, yeah.
Steve, the floor is yours.
Sorry. So in England, we have like the government really doesn't really help us really, and it's just, and also quite recently they talk about welfare cuts for the benefits. So some of the benefits we do get in England that helps people to find work, keep them in work, but they talk about cutting it because they're trying to save money really. And again, unfortunately, we are the easy targets really, so they don't actually understand about how they need to support us into work. So yeah, so that's what's happening in England really, that they're just trying to save money, and then we're just claiming back the benefits from people who actually want to work really. So, and also I belong to a South African group in England, and so we have supported interns, so we support young people into finding work. So some days they are in a classroom doing English and maths, and then the rest of the week they are in work. Hopefully they will find the company will keep them on, because that's what we say, that this is for work. If we don't do volunteering work, so at the end of the day, hopefully you will the people can prove that they can work, so they can give them, the young people, the job. So yeah, so that's me. Thank you.
I don't see any more raised hands. Are there any more questions? I think there aren't any more. If it's all right with you, we can read a comment on the chat. It's in English. I'm going to say it in Spanish, and there is translation at the same time. Sally from South Africa says that she has Down syndrome. She had problems. I had Down syndrome. I had problems to be accepted in the mainstream environment, but at the end I managed to pass my grade 12 examinations. I studied at an accredited college and earned my education diploma. Now I'm a teacher assistant. I have been a teacher assistant for the last 16 years. Thank you, Sherry Briner, for your experience. Do you want to tell us yourself? Open your microphone.
Trying. Okay. Your second language is English?
Okay, my home language is Afrikaans, but I will try to speak in English. Yes, it was hard to make normal friends, but at the end, I have many friends, and I visit them a lot, sometimes.
And do you enjoy working?
Yes, I enjoy working. Yes.
What do you do every night or every afternoon?
Then I plan my lessons for the next day. That is what I do every day.
Does it make you feel good?
Yes, very good.
Is that all?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry, for sharing. And for you, how important has been the support from your family?
What's the support? Did you have support from your family?
Yes. Since my birth, my parents, grandparents, and the whole family loved and accepted me. My grandparents spoiled me more than my sisters, and that made me feel bad. My sisters made me strong by handling me the same way they handle each other. I am just part of the family. Although they got married and have children, our bond is as strong as ever. They still make me part of their and their children's lives. They all help me when I asked them, but they accepted me to try first. I like that.
That's all.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it was 43 years ago. You all know that was a while ago. So things were very different in South Africa. The people like Cherie was mostly in institutions. I got less support from certain doctors, but the society, because I accepted and my husband accepted her, the society accepted Cherie, and she's just part of this town that we live, and we are very happy to have her. I'm listening to you that say you want to make the groups for the parents, and I think that's very, very important. But what I saw in my 43 years with Cherie, sometimes you must not be despondent when they stop, because then they are okay. They will come to your groups when they need assistance bad. Then you have reached your goal. Thank you.
So thanks a lot to colleagues and comrades from Ghana for their account about their experience. Quite interesting. Thank you for your facilitation, both in the questions and telling your experiences. Now we would like to give the floor to the colleagues from CONFE Mexico. They're gonna tell us how they work on this issue. The floor is yours. Colleagues from Mexico, comrades from Mexico. Is anybody from CONFE Mexico connected to this call? If there is anybody, you can tell us now. If not, we go on with the questions. But is anybody from CONFE, please tell us. I think we don't have anybody from CONFE.
Fer, ¿estás ahí?
Fer, are you there? I don't think so.
Que no está conectada porque estoy mirando a la gente y no la veo. Pero bueno, no pasa nada. Les decimos si no luego
It's all
que
right.
nos comenten.
We'll tell them later to tell us about it.
Que nos puedan enviar un correo
Or
o algo.
they can send us an email and we'll share with the rest. So, now, how do you like if we talk about the question that Marcos sent by mail? I'm gonna read all the questions again, and then we go answering one by one. First question. About what you would like to have support from your family. Has your family ever made a decision for you without asking you? How did that make you feel? Third question. What can you say to your family to help them respect your decisions and support you in an inclusive way? Fourth, what new things should families learn to better support people with disabilities? Those are the questions, and now we're going to answer them. Okay? One after the other.
No sé si
I don't know if anybody wants to be first answering them. Horacio, what would you answer to these questions? What I would answer is that the first, about what would you like to receive support from your family. For instance, I I get support, but actually, for instance, for my driving license, but normally I don't need that much support. They give them to me when I ask them for. About that, they don't have a problem. It's something that it's quite normalized. About which things I get enough support from them, so I don't think I need more support about anything else. Secondly, has at some point your family decided on your behalf without asking you? No, it has never happened to me. I have never had that kind of problem. Third, what can you tell your family so they respect your decisions in an inclusive way? I would say that they should trust me. If I make mistakes, those are my mistakes, but also that you learn from your mistakes. You shouldn't do things the way your families want you to do things. You need to do it yourself in order to see what's wrong and what's right. Fourth, what new things should families learn in order to support their kids? I think they should learn that people with disabilities have right to a job, to have a life in couple, and to have an independent life. Also, when they live with a family, they should have their own space, their own rooms. In my case, I will ask them for support when I need it. That's what families should learn. Has anybody? See, I think that Stephanie wanted to say something, and then Stephanie, the floor is yours. Hi, I'm Stephanie from Brazil. I need support
My
for
family
decisions
has
when I started to
always
work.
supported me to work. My family is, in fact, my best support. It's true that many times people didn't believe in me and they thought that I wouldn't be able to work, but my mother was my biggest support. She helped me to find a job, she showed me how to take a bus, and today I feel completely independent to do everything I need to do. But the beginning, it was hard to reach the autonomy. I was afraid to take the bus. I was afraid to do many things alone. On the second question, my family never made a decision for me. They always helped me to take the decisions by myself. Third question. Can you read the question again, please? Can I see the question again? So what can you tell your family so that to help them respect you and your decisions and support you in an inclusive way? Well, I think that the family has to support people with disabilities because people if people with disabilities don't manage to achieve something, they need to support them to insist. For example, here in Brazil, my family supported me to pass an exam and to participate and to continue to insist. Fourth question about support. Support is absolutely fundamental for people with disabilities. We need support because, but it is true that it is us that have to decide when we need that support and the support we need. It is ourselves that must decide. For example, here there was a group of families that support people with disabilities, and there's a support group that also helps the families. We all work together. Thank you so much. Thank you. Go ahead, Princess Samuel. Princess Samuela, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Princess Samwera from Rwanda. I come from Disability Inclusion Rwanda and I'm a self-advocate officer. Answering the first question, in what ways do you receive or like to receive support from your family? Or to my personal answer, I would say that the way that I would like to receive the support from my family is the encouragement and like giving me space just to show up my ideas, my capabilities. Like for example, at home they would like give me a way, or they just give me space, or give me the way that I can just decide whether I can do something. I can mop, I can clean, I can cook. Yeah. And also by encouragement, like for example in schools sometimes we feel like we depressed and feel we can't do it anymore, but when they encourage you and say you have a better future, you have to try and do it more, it gives us a better way just to continue living on and having a better life. Answering the second question, has your family ever made decisions for you without asking you? How did that make you feel? Actually, as a child to a parent, sometimes we are not too decisive. Like we feel too childish to take some responsibilities or to decide ourselves. Yeah, my family sometimes used to decide some of the parts of my life's decisions. For example, like the core subject that I took within my advanced level, they decided for me to take mathematics, physics, and computer, because to them they felt like I was able, because I was good at math and good at computer. They told me I should just take the core subjects, and that I would become a better IT in Rwanda, or be better hacker. So that was a good thing. But even though they made that decision, they also encouraged me and also asked me whether I feel that I will be able to take the core subjects. On the third question, what can you say to your family to help them respect your decisions? Actually, I don't think like saying or just giving out the word to your family members would like make them respect your decisions. I think acting responsibly and like acting that you're more sensitive to your life's decisions will help them to respect your ideas. Because if they say like you wake up, you make up your bed, you clean, you being responsible at home, trying just to be the sensitive to your little siblings or your elder siblings, it will help them feel like this guy is responsible, or this person is responsible, that he or she can be able to decide for him or herself. On the fourth question, what new things should families learn to better support people with disabilities? I think that families should learn that even though people with disabilities, mostly intellectual disabilities, uh, they should know that even though there are some things that they aren't able to do, uh, but that doesn't mean that they aren't able to do anything at all in their lives, and that they can't achieve a better future within their future upcoming lives. They should know that within supporting them and insisting them and encouraging them, they will be able to give a good and a great outcome there. Thank you.
Sherry, you
Okay,
have the floor.
thank you. I already asked answer question one, but the other half of question one, my family support me only when I ask them, and they also believe in me. Question two, has your family ever made a decision for you without asking you? How did that make you feel? I had a hysterectomy when I was too small to understand, and my parents did not ask me how I felt about it. I still makes me fe- it still makes me feel sad, but I know today they wanted to help me. Question 3. What can you say to what can you say to your family to get them to respect your decisions? Today, we are open with each other and we all respect each other and our decisions about our lives. I never feel that I am handled differently than my sisters with everyday matters. Question 4. What new things should family members learn to better support people with disabilities? Every family is different. In my case, I think I am handled exactly the way I want to be handled. We are all open to each other's needs, and we can all say if we would like things differently. Respect, patience, and being strict on me help me to fit into society. Thank you.
Juan José, you have the floor. Well, can you remind me the first question, please? Yes. In what ways do you receive or you would like to receive support from your family? Okay, well, I would like to receive support from my family for example, that they would support me to do the things that I would like to do. So I would like to receive their support so that I can participate in activities, in different games, for example, but also, for example, I would like them to support me in things that have to do with maths, for example, because I feel that I I have problems managing money, for example, and I would like their support in that. Also, I would like support in active listening. I think active listening is very important, and I would like them to support me in that way. And for example, I would like them to give me responsibilities in my home, for example. In I think this is important in my context, in my family. Thank you. Does anybody else want to answer this question?
No sé si a alguien más le gustaría
Does
participar.
anybody else want to participate? No,
No sé si veo muchas manos
I don't see many
levantadas
hands
sobre el tema
raised
del apoyo de las
on
familias.
the topic of family
Ana, ¿a ti
support.
te gustaría comentar
Anna,
algo?
would you like to say something or comment on something? Don't worry, we wait for you. I hope you don't hear all the noise around. Can you hear noise? No, it's okay. Okay. Well, I would like to say that I would like my family to support me a little bit more in some decisions that I have to take. And I would also like to communicate openly with them because they think that because they are older, they think things differently there and they don't accept so much things that have to do with disability. And I would like to speak about these things and I would like them to support me when I go and visit them so that I have my space there in their home, because when I go to their house and I visit them, I don't have a private space. Well, before, when I lived with them, I had a little bit of private space, but now I have none. This was all I wanted to say. Thank you, Anna. And also, it is true, and they acknowledge that they were happy because I passed my public exams. But it is true that it was especially my friends that supported me. Thank you, Anna. Because sometimes it is true that friends are your chosen family and are your real family. Yes, I have a friend that says he has two families, the biological family and the family he chose. Yes, this is very important because it is important also to value all the people that support us, and that even if they're not our biological family, they are very close to us and they are like family in the end. In the chat, Sara is saying that for the first question, she would say that she would like to support with that they want their space to take the right decisions for a better future. Thank you, Sara, for your comment. I don't know if somebody else wants to share their experience. We are going to share the questions again.
First question, about which you would like to receive support from your family. Second, has your family ever decide for you without consulting you? Third, what can you say to your family in order for them to respect your decision and help you in an inclusive way? Fourth, which new things should families learn in order to support people with disabilities? Thank you, Horacio. A few seconds. If anybody wants to tell us more about this. Yes, may I speak, please?
¿Qué pregunta vamos?
Which question?
Hemos leído todas juntas, ¿no, Horacio?
If you want, I repeat them again.
Bueno, para decirles, bueno, lo que recibo apoyo en
I get support from my family, a lot of support, especially from my mother. Has helped me a lot to go forward, also economically, and also to help me when I do some trip. And so
como me ha sentido sentir a veces pena, pero también me ha sentido mucho facilidad, me ha sentido mucha
sometimes
facilidad,
made me
facilidad,
feel
porque tengo el apoyo
made me
ya
feel
directo,
sad, but
a
also
veces
made
me
me
ayudan
feel
a
very
a
happy.
veces
They helped me
evitar la frustración,
avoid
la paciencia
frustration, to be
y también
patient.
me ha ayudado también a veces ciertas cosas, a veces no las acepto, a
They
veces que sí, a veces le